Hey guys, so peace to all my seeking hearts tonight, and yeah, it's here, me at the Wolfpack, not at the Wolfpack, I am the Wolfpack, we all are, um, here with your evening spark, and I feel like this is one of these questions that a lot of Christians proclaim, but do we really understand what it means? And even more than that, do we know what we're saying? Because I don't think we do. I think we say it because we've been told by the cat down the road, by the preachers and stuff, that this is what you're supposed to say and all this stuff, and they've come to know it because of their conditioning, and that being the question of, do we deserve God's love? And many Christians would say, oh no, we don't, because of our sin, but by the grace and love by Jesus Christ and his sacrifice on the cross, we now are able to have that love. But it's still like one of those weird concepts in that we were dead in our sin and all this stuff, and that none of us deserves heaven, we all deserve hell. I'm like, well, if you actually just take 2 seconds to step back and think about that, it seems a little silly, because if heaven is within us, then right there we have the inheritance with Christ. Inheritance. You don't usually one does not get an inheritance unless they deserve that. And God, and also here's another thing. God does not give that which what someone does not deserve. You know? So I think it really just right there, if God didn't think we deserved his love, he wouldn't have given it to you. It's like, for instance, if you haven't worked for your college degree, for instance, then you don't get it. You haven't earned it. You haven't deserved it. Now I know there's nothing we can do to deserve it. The whole we don't, grace being unmerited love by God. But again, that's ridiculous also, because that do you even understand? I mean, I feel like people don't understand what grace means, because grace is, I think, a dynamic of God's love, in the sense that I think really, if you look at what grace is, based off of how it's used, like for instance, my grace is sufficient for thee. How does that, the definition that we've come to know it as, my love that you don't deserve is sufficient? That doesn't even make sense if you actually think about it, to the extent that I think it matters. Grace to me is more of this accepting of God's love. That when you do it, you're able to see the world with gently, with forgiveness. That it's not of the body, it's not of the things we do. You're correct in that, but it's not the things that we do, because we've already have our worth established by God. Because you got to think, if God created you and created you as himself, because he can only create as he is, thus being perfect, not of the body, because my body, it's not entirely perfect, and that's not the point though. It's of the mind. We share a mind with Christ. What you do to one, you do to me. That's what Jesus said to his disciples. And so, why would he say that? And you want to talk about the whole dead thing. Someone can be, you can be dead now, dead to your sin in the now. It's not just when you're in the grave. It's all mental, man. It's all in the mind. I think that's the thing we don't get. We think these localities are in a distant place, but it's here now. Heaven is within. So our notion, why would God want to deprive his children who he loves, to say that they don't deserve his love? Do you say, if you've got children, do you say, oh, you don't deserve to be fed? You don't look at it. I don't think any loving parent thinks, well, my child hasn't earned or deserved to be loved. No, they give it unconditionally. It doesn't matter, man. Rain falls on the good and the bad. It's not a matter of, whether you deserve it or not. It's a matter of the love that God gives. And if you, just because we are sinners and things like that, do we even understand what it means to be a sinner? To sin is merely to hold a false idea about God's Son. So are you believing the lie? Because the father of all lies is the devil. And if this world is of the devil, well, then this world is a world of lies, deceit. I mean, think about it. Sin, disease, and death, these things that are in direct opposition to what life is. So obviously this is not the real world. This is not the true spiritual world. So if that's the case, then what you're doing to yourself and unto yourself is merely believing in a lie and an illusion about your reality. And if it's not the reality, you're not really doing anything. Now what you're doing is you're denying and delaying what is rightfully yours, what God would have for you right now. It's like we've closed off the gates, as it were, to our spiritual awareness. But God, at any moment, should we give the slightest willingness, will bring in the flood tides of joy. And it makes it so much better. It's not in this belligerent, like, give me what's mine, I deserve it right now, like the inheritance of the prodigal son that he first had. But rather, it's more of recognizing what's ours, what God would have be ours, and not feel like we don't deserve God's love. That's one of the most heartbreaking things that I think I really hope to see become amended as the years go by within the Christian nation, because that's a great travesty to believe that we don't deserve the love of the Father, who created us. And if He created us perfect and loving and lovable, then that is what we are. I challenge you to not believe the lie about your brother that he is a sick, sinning person. And because the thing about it all is that Jesus didn't. Jesus saw the more perfect person. He saw the perfect man. Because if He didn't, He would have stoned the adulterous woman. If he didn't, He would have thought that the Pharisee's daughter was actually dead. No, she's sleeping. People were like, they laughed at Him. They thought, oh, this person, what is he talking about? This person is, she's dead. No, see, people are sleeping. And when you sleep, you can have some pretty wacky dreams. But that doesn't make it the reality. So that's it, friends. So we do deserve God's love. And you have to recognize that. Because here's the thing. If you don't believe that you deserve God's love, if you don't believe you deserve something, you're not going to even attempt it then. So you aren't going to attempt to make a better life for yourself. You have to feel that you deserve where you're going, that this is where you're meant to be. You have to identify in your mind that sort of visualization of who you want to be. I mean, that's simple, like psychological dynamics there, that if you don't think something can even happen, you're not even going to attempt it. So many people, for instance, didn't think that someone could run a mile in less than 4 minutes. So they never even attempted it. They stopped at the 4-minute mark. Like, you can get close, but you can't do it, sorry. But once, I think it was Robert Bannister was his name. Anyways, you can look it up. Once he was able to break the 4-minute barrier, like within a month, somebody else was able to do it. And it wasn't because, he just, it's just, it's a, like coincidence. It's that when you break that paradigm of saying, oh, this can't happen and this can't happen, when you break that, it's like you poke a hole in this wall, so to speak, and then eventually it's amazing how when one person does it, how it just, people flood through that hole to make it gaping open. And I think that's what we need to do with some of these thoughts that have been just instilled in us generationally. We have to be, I think, more willing to take an eye and look at, okay, it's saying these things, or rather we have these reasons, we say these things, and first off, where are we deriving these from the Bible? And then second, okay, are those passages in fact actually saying that, or are we making that our interpretation of it? Don't just take the base level of what it says exactly. Because if we do that, I understand that, yes, the Bible is something that even the simple can understand, but the simple being that of someone who's not clouded by all their preconceived notions. It's not saying necessarily that someone who's like, quote unquote, mentally like incapacitated can even understand, so to speak. Someone who doesn't have like an education, or someone who's like illiterate, as it were. It takes some deep thinking. It's not something you can just look at and say, yep, he says that, yep, that's what it means, literally. Well, it's important to do some research. It's important to pray and to really meditate and allow the deeper aspects of all this to permeate within one's consciousness. So that's what I would have to say to it all. But yeah, but that's what I have to say about it. I really hope this has helped. I think it's all about us having a change of base, to have a higher spiritual reality. Because I'm not satisfied with the condition of our spiritual existence in this world yet. I'm not satisfied until everyone is able to have that healing experience. And I think we've gotten complacent in as far as what we're trying to preach to people, to teach the people, because I don't feel like it's feeding them in the right way. And I don't think it's a matter of getting more people in the churches. I think we need to re-examine what we've been preaching to people, because that's the thing what you speak to people in your heart is what's going to really make a change in base in others. So anyways, that's what I got to say. But from here at the Wolf Pack, we wish you well and Godspeed in your spiritual journeys. Peace, friends.